Known by locals for its gruesome past, the Royal Hope Hospital was a Spanish military hospital used from the late 1700s until the early 1800s. The original hospital has since been demolished, but a replica was erected to house the victims of the Seminole War. During reconstruction, workers were stunned to find that the hospital was built atop an ancient Native American burial site. Reports out of Royal Hope include unexplained groans, moans, and shouts. Beds are even said to move around the room on their own, while patient belongings go missing only to turn up later on. Full-bodied apparitions of men in military garb are reported on the grounds of the hospital, while a feeling of dread is experienced by visitors to the area. Built in 1907 as a private ranch, the TRANQUILLE Sanatorium changed its purpose when tuberculosis started to overtake the area. The owners decided to use the large building as a place for tuberculosis patients to rest and recover. A small campus known as TRANQUILLE was built around the facility, and it had acres of gardens, houses, a farm, and even a fire department of its very own. In 1958, the sanatorium closed its doors, only to reopen a year later to treat mentally ill patients. It closed permanently in 1983. The sanatorium's years of sickness and sadness seem to have been absorbed by the land, and these feelings can be experienced by the living. The sanatorium is famous for its floating orbs, inexplicable feelings of unease, and massive temperature changes throughout the facility. There is even a story that tells of a nurse who was murdered by a patient here. She is seen as a glowing blue apparition hovering over the halls of the old hospital. Severals Hospital is located in Colchester in the United Kingdom and was constructed in 1910 to serve the needs of psychiatric patients. It opened its doors in May of 1912 and provided a home to just about 2,000 patients. Most of the buildings on campus are designed in the Queen Anne style by architect Frank Whitmore. Known as one of the most haunted hospitals in the United Kingdom, Severals closed as a psychiatric hospital in the early 1990s, following the quick closure of other institutions. A small section of the hospital remained open and served elderly patients suffering from the side effects of severe stroke until March 1997, when it finally shut down for good. Ghost hunters of all types flock to Severals in search of evidence of disembodied voices and shadow figures that are reported frequently. Near Preston, Whittingham Hospital opened as a psychiatric hospital in 1873. It quickly grew to be the largest mental asylum in Britain. It operated without a hitch until 1967, when it faced controversy after complaints started to arise of mistreatment of patients in the St. Luke's division, especially in the women's ward. Complaints were heinous. Patients were said to be locked alone in small rooms for days at a time, left outside in wheelchairs to brave the elements. Patients were dragged by their hair, a wet towel treatment, which was described as a damp towel being wrapped around the necks of unruly patients to induce unconsciousness, and even nurses setting fire to patients' clothing while it was still on their body. Beatings and mice infestations were commonplace as well. With all of this negative energy from the hospital's past, it deserves its spot on our top 10 list. Investigators report feelings of being watched and even being pushed if they venture too far into the bowels of the hospital.
In Changi, Singapore lies the old Changi Hospital. It was previously known as Royal Air Force Hospital and was then merged with the Toa Payoh Hospital. After it shut down in 1997, it sat with nature alone for over a decade. Now regarded as one of the most haunted places in all of Singapore, Old Changi Hospital was captured during World War II by Japanese forces and was used as a healthcare facility for the prisoners of war detained at the military base nearby. One can only imagine how these prisoners were treated within the walls of the makeshift hospital, and the fear left behind has left visitors scratching their heads when they witness dark shadows floating around the outside of the facility. Perhaps these are spirits of old security guards, making sure none of the POWs escape.